Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the January 2021 Astrology Overview. I'm Cassandra from CassandraTindall.com. So happy New Year. I hope you've all had a really lovely holiday period with your friends and family, and that you're really happy to put a less than fantastic year behind you and look forward to a lot of exciting new adventures, which is really promised in this upcoming year. So why I think astrology of January 2021 is so important is because it really does set the tone and the template for what we're going to experience for the rest of the year and also well into 2022 as well. So I'll outline some of the highlights of the month and also how the show Vikings has really, I've drawn a lot of inspiration for how I view this year from that show. So if anybody knows me, if you're not new to my work, I am quite fond of these type of programs. So, all right, let's get started. So I'm just going to share with you a calendar I create actually for members of my Golden Circle Club. And if you're not really tuned into astrology and looking at charts or software and etc., this can be a handy guide. So feel free to screenshot it if you want to. Or you can send me an email and I can send you one out. So this one is based on the USA Canada time. Or Northern Hemisphere time generally. So if you are wanting to get the more Australian times, it's usually the day after most of these aspects. So the big shift is the fact that Mars is moving into Taurus on the 6th and the 7th if you're in Australia. So after nearly 7 long months of Mars being in Aries, it's moving from a place of, I guess, extreme happiness in terms of being in its own sign, although it did have a challenging path, into Taurus, which technically speaking, it finds its detriment. So that, in a nutshell, that means, Mars just, wants to really power on. It's got goals to kick. It's got things to do. Whereas Taurus just wants to relax and take it easy and smell the roses and enjoy the scenery along the way. So there is a little bit of tension in this placement. Obviously all astrological placements have their positive manifestations and the ones that are a little bit more challenging. So if you think about Taurus being the bull, it is, either happy chewing the cud or it's getting ready to charge at you. So there may be a bit of a slow influence in getting warmed up to goals and plans for 2020. Then Mars is going to quickly move along and then it's going to square Saturn. So it's going to activate the signature aspect of 2021, which is Saturn square Uranus. So this is a very sort of friction inducing, it's tension, it's frustration, it's I'm wanting to go in one direction, but there's a blockage or an obstacle, or maybe realizing that, I've stopped short of a goal or I've overshot the runway. There's some kind of tension or frustration to movement in this aspect. And this is going to happen all throughout the year. Mars is really going to set off Saturn, Jupiter, and Uranus. So then the next aspect for the month is Jupiter square Uranus. Now, this is the only exact square between these two planets. Although they will be in a whole sign square throughout the year, this is the first the first and only actual square they form. So this is the 17th, and of course it's the 18th down here. So Jupiter and Uranus is this almost like this extreme optimism. I'm going to reinvent the wheel and I'm going to do all the things. And it's very enthusiasm, heady, acting on beliefs and breaking beliefs. And I'm going to reinvent the wheel based on what I believe to be true or what is right for me. So it's this kind of Jupiter Uranus is almost like these new year, new me type of influences. And then of course, you know, we've got Mars activating that and adding fuel to the fire. Then Saturn comes along and kind of says no, or you got to actually work hard at this. And then of course, Mars conjoins Uranus on the 20th and the 21st here. So this is a hugely volatile, catalytic type of energy, this fusion of a fuel and just like adding fuel to fire. So this is very combustible, it's very volatile, it's very shocking, surprising. You know, shocks don't have to be bad things. You know, sometimes they can be just that shake up or that change that you need. Particularly too, you know, keep in mind that all of this energy this year is in fixed signs. So it is this kind of, it probably will have a bit more of a shock, but it may not be the shock that you didn't know you needed, or that change you didn't know you needed. Then we have Mars square Jupiter. And then of course we finish the month on a full moon in Leo, some more fixed activations there. And then of course, Mercury will then station retrograde in Aquarius. So activating the fixed axis or the fixed signs, you know, for another couple of months there. So there's a real emphasis on the parts of your life. So to personalize this more, the parts of your life that maybe you don't want to change or that you really want to remain the same. Or if you're kind of feeling frustrated, restless, agitated, these types of aspects could really kind of shake or shock you out of this stuck situation that is actually really frustrating you. It's almost like, you know, your comfort zone in actual fact is extremely uncomfortable. So some of these themes or topics are going to more than likely kind of be activated this year and this month in particular. So that's sort of the energy of the astrology. And how does that respond to Vikings? How does that gel? So just prior to sort of the Christmas break, I was just bored. I was just like, oh, what's on Netflix? And so started watching Vikings, and I couldn't remember where I was up to. I'd lost track of it a really long time ago. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to start it again and start from the beginning, because obviously it's such an in-depth show and I forgot a whole lot of stuff. And I started watching it and I was thinking to myself, wow, like this is really, you know, a metaphor for what we could experience collectively, personally, this year. And obviously I'm just using this as an example, not literal, although who knows, anything could happen this year for sure. So let's take the story that it is based around. So it is a historical story, you know, obviously how factual, I really don't know. I'm not an expert on Nordic history, but we have a farmer, you know, Uranus and Taurus, or even Mars and Taurus too, a farmer who obviously has a dream or has an idea of something that is seemingly impossible, but is determined to give it a go. So he, you know, they talks to the Earl and says, hey, I want to raid west this summer. And the Vikings used to go east. So the idea here is that he wants to cross a sea that they only hear rumors that there's these lands that are worth plundering. No one's crossed it before, and those who've tried have died. And so there's this idea here, this Jupiter-Uranus, this person who's just got this immense amount of faith in the possibility of breaking, you know, going across an ocean and discovering new lands that, you know, no one from Norway has managed to get to from this point in time. And so there's this hedonistic, unbridled enthusiasm to do this. And then of course the Earl says no, so that's Saturn. It's just like, so there's almost like this buzzkill that happens. But, you know, not to be stopped when you're a Viking warrior, you go back and you make a plan. after you hit that Saturnian wall and say, okay, well, what's the strategy? I need a team, or I need additional support. And then, Mars comes and conjoins Uranus, and then it's boom, I'm going to stick my middle finger up to the authority and I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway. And then they reach England and raid a monastery. And so, of course, that's the more literal Mars-Uranus piece there with, blood and violence and what have you. And then they take back a monk as a slave, and, they become friends, and they share their perspectives, and they share their faith, and they share their belief in their each of their gods. And so there is this sense of maybe some of that humanitarian Aquarius influence that is coming through, that, it may take some shakeups, it may take some violence, it may take some shocks and surprises for things to get better again. And so, that he comes back, hits, the Saturn wall with the Earl, the boss of the village. And then, of course, he has to get the reinforcements and more men and all the things, and go back and do it again. And then, of course, on the other side, back in England, they're not taken by surprise anymore, because they're like, these guys are going to return. So that wall gets more hard, that Saturnian wall, when they go back a second time. Because the first time was easy, because it was all this gusto and macho-ness and enthusiasm with no blockage, because it was the shock value. But once you've been bitten, you're kind of like twice shy. And this is what happened when they went back, because obviously the kingdoms expected them to return, prepared their armies and what have you. So how do we break that down for our own lives? Whatever your goals are this year, it might be to lose weight, it might be to make some progress financially, maybe find your true love, or whatever it is. It's this idea that we move into something. When we decide to do something, we move into it with almost this, if you've got Taurus planets, that is, I'm speaking from a personal experience. When you decide, it's like, right, I'm going to do the thing. And, and that is Mars in Taurus, which I do have. Might take me a while to decide, which direction I'm going to put my energy and focus. But once I do, you don't change my mind. And so this might be something that you experience this month too, particularly after 2020. If you don't have some renewed priorities and perspectives now, I'm not really sure what it would take for that to happen. But, if there are some choices that you do want to move towards this year, there is a level of cosmic support that provides the determination to see it through long after the mood you made that choice in has long gone. You go in with gusto and enthusiasm and determination, and then you might hit a wall. It might be that plateau in weight loss. It might be, an unexpected bill that came in just when you thought you had, ahead of your savings, or, whatever the thing is, or you kiss a few frogs on a date. And then you go back and, get that Saturnian reinforcements, more clarity of what your priorities are, or where your personal limit is, or where your non-negotiable is. But then you kind of got to stretch it again. I think it's in the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, talks a lot about, when you reach an upper limit, you got to push it again and again and again, like a lobster coming out of its shell. It just has to keep on growing and eventually crack that wall. And then, okay, this is the new normal now, and then you crack it again. So this is a year of really pushing against a limit, an upper limit, okay? And then that's your new set point, and that's your new normal. And then you got to go and push it again. And then in order to push it again, you have to I've got to do this thing again. You got to get your gusto and your motivation up again, and the cycle will just continue. So if anyone's done any type of, deep therapy work, and you think, I've done it, I'm healed, I'm great now. And then whether it's an astrological transit or a thing in your life happens, and then it's like, this old chestnut again. I just thought I'd got this far, But now I'm like, oh, I've got to go and do some more work to continue to grow and expand and push against your own personal upper limit. So I think that's my TED Talk for January and for 2021. So if you do like this video and you do like these kind of insights, I do invite you to join my Golden Circle Club, where I do this sort of stuff on a monthly basis and, give you all the insights as the astrology happens. And you can find out more about that in the description below. So thank you for watching, and I really wish you the happiest of New Year's and a great start to your 2021.